Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the GRL podcasts. This week we were over in the desert at Bahrain in Sakir for the classic circuit, no outer circuit, no shorter lap times than usual. Also in the F1 divisions, we're going at one of the best tracks for racing, one of the best tracks on the whole calendar, probably. And yeah, Blade will be alongside me once more to go through the action, where some interesting decisions were made in championship fights, and definitely interesting winners as well, which definitely changed the tables up for sure. But yeah, I would say we just head over to Division 1, where it all starts off once again. And as every week, we start up with Division 1. And once again, for the fifth time this season, it was Sora who won for Red Bull in Division 1. He just about beat Blade by, I think, 4/10 of a second to the line, with a Rage in P3 after penalty removal for Blade. And B-Ford with wing damage just about finishes in P4. God of Gaming then also with a penalty removal in P5, with Benstein P6, Reese Hunt in P7, Ghosts Jr. on his Division 1 debut in P8, Drezzy only in P9 with after late collision, and Kurt in the end picking up a single point. Looking at the driver standings, Sora obviously extends his championship lead, but now also being the winner of basically a third of all the races in Division 1. B4 then 20 points behind Sora, so he's still within a race win heading into the Canadian Grand Prix next week. Blade on 167 points, so he obviously still has a chance on getting back up there, but looks kind of bit of unlikely at this rate. Same with Drazzy behind him on 142 points. So the Williams duo definitely good in the constructors, like every week, but in drivers seem to struggle a little bit. Then we've got Rain on 102, who didn't attend this week, with a Ninja as every week on 73 points. Michael Dale on 71 after crashing out once more. Rage on 69, so he's closing up on the second Red Bull driver, and our injured Hungarian Partic on 57 points. Looking at the Division 1 team standings, we still have Williams leading on 310 points, losing a bit of ground as well to Red Bull, who are now on 288 points. Mercedes on 206 points. Mercedes will also have two drivers from next week onwards, so that should boost their point score as well. Then we've got Alfa Romeo 5 points behind. McLaren then on 172, just ahead of Alpine on 148. Aston Martin then on 117, and then below 100 with the three teams of Haas, Ferrari, and AlphaTauri on 70, 51, and 30 points. And like in the recent weeks, I've got Williams driver Blade with me. Yeah, you were right in the fight this week. That actually was an accidental rhyme there, but it wasn't quite enough for beating Sora in the end. But definitely, from what I've seen on the stream, have been a great and close battle. But as said, just wasn't quite enough in the end.
Yeah, no, yeah, first of all, hello, and yeah, not quite enough. I think we had really similar pace, but Sora's running slightly less wing, or well, he definitely had more top speed. So it took a lot of effort and ERS to get past, and he could pretty easily get past me. But we had a really fun battle, and yeah, I think overall, no one can fault the pace he had. It's obviously trickier to drive lower downforce setups, but he pulled it off and managed to win, which bodes well for him. So yeah, and yeah, as I said, it was a really enjoyable battle. So hopefully more of that to come.
Yeah, that's well said. To be fair, I mean, as said, Sora won now 5 out of 15 races, which equals a third of the whole season so far. And he even said, I believe, in the podium interviews that the upcoming track of Canada is one of his best ones, and I think also his favorite one. So I think that's not really what Drazi, yourself, and Beef will probably want to hear, but yeah, at least it's good that basically all three top teams now have two active drivers, which could potentially be quite crucial, and well, probably some people will be interested in hearing. Has Williams already decided to put one driver really in that drivers' championship fight and protect him, or is it still a 50-50 game between Drazi and yourself?
Oh yeah, I don't think so. I think me and Trezzy want to, perform as well as we can do, and I think we're so close in the championship. It's always nice to one up your teammate. So, but we're also not going to be stupid and battle each other unnecessarily hard and take lose a lot of time or take points off each other. I'd like to think we'll work together in the coming races, and I think it's probably more for us now about the constructors than the drivers. Of course, the drivers is still possible, but it's quite unlikely. So, and obviously we're in the lead of the constructors, and I'm sure we both want to win the constructors. I certainly do, because that would be two constructors championships next to my name. So that's nice. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I think mainly it will just be whoever's on the right strategy or whoever's got more pace. We'll just let uh,
Yeah.
let them go ahead. So.
Yeah, and obviously, as said already, I mean, Canada's next up. That's gonna be for yourself probably not as enjoyable as for the other three, as you're the only one who isn't on wheel but on pads. So especially the final chicane will probably be a bit of a headache already. Being in your mind, but as said, what do you think can we expect from Canada? I mean, it's a street circuit. It's quite tight. We have to, as said, a couple of chicanes, a hairpin. The Wall of Champions which will probably find its victims again. But what do you think we have to look out for this week in Canada?
Yeah, well, I think it will certainly be interesting between Sora and Beeford because I know both of them are. It's one of their favorite tracks for both of them, so it will be interesting. I think the race will be uh, a great spectacle. But yeah, for myself, I imagine I'll be starting towards the back, and it will pretty much take a miracle for me to be able to even get close to the podium. So yeah, I don't know. If I do manage to win, it actually bodes quite well for the championship because I think the rest of the calendar is not too bad for me. So well, obviously I don't know how good it is for Soren Beeford, but I'd like to think that I might be able to take a couple points off them in those races. Probably not enough to win the title or anything, but it will still be nice to get a lot of podiums and get some race wins. So yeah, but yeah, as I said, Canada not looking forward to it. I think Jersey will be up there too, so it could be interesting between those three. Maybe they'll all collide and I'll somehow find my way through.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, both of them like the track. So both of them having on the front row or near the front row, starting to each other closely. That would definitely be very interesting, as we haven't really seen them wheel to wheel racing since Australia. Well, it was also Sora didn't have a penalty, but Beeford had. So there wasn't really a huge battle so far we had between the two, but I'm sure it will come. But for now, I'd say we leave Division 1 alone and head over to Division 2, where we had Jackster winning at Bahrain in a non-safety car race, actually. Torpo and AlphaTauri finishing second, Siege making it a double GSR podium, but finishing third for McLaren. Then we've got the two Haas drivers of Fizzle and Clever, who due to mistakes lost a double podium for the American team. Then we've got Dylan Baxter in P6, Distant Bard currently second in the championship, only in P7, with Amos Lloyd in P8 and the two rebels of myself and Dan in P9 and P10. Looking at the driver standings, Slappers, who returned to Division 2 but didn't score any points this week, the first time this season actually, when he participated, he didn't pick up any points. He still leads with 184 points. Then we've got Distant Bard on 170, 3 points ahead of his Alpine teammate of Jackson 167. So, like you said a couple of weeks ago, Jackson might be a little bit far back, but he can easily make that up with a good race for himself, and he certainly did. Otto then on 112 after missing out on racing in Bahrain. So maybe he'll have a couple of good weekends as well and get right into there. We've got Amos Lloyd on 104, myself on 97. We'll probably stay on 97 for now after moving back up to Div 1. Dan on 82 points, Ghost Junior on 79, Clever on 67, and Pano still remaining on the 65. Looking at the team standings, Alpine obviously extend the lead to 355 points, and they're edging closer to the Constructors' Championship title. Ferrari then on 226, not scoring any points at Sakhir, with Red Bull on 206 closing in slightly. Aston Martin then on 179, Mercedes on 153, Alfa Romeo on 127, with Haas 10 points behind the last team with more than 100 points. Williams then on 97 points, so Division 2 not doing them any favours in the overall constructors battle, with AlphaTauri on 84 and McLaren being last of the runners with 63 points. Well, as you said a couple of weeks ago, Jackson needs a good race, and his rivals don't need that. And then with a freewheel fight, we certainly do now, especially as that was actually the first bad race of Slappers we've seen. Well, we didn't see him all race because he was just completely at the back all the way, and Distant Barda also struggled with a desynced car ahead, which cost him loads of time, while Jackster just could cruise up top and pick up important points. I think if the championship wasn't on earlier, it's definitely now, is it?
Yeah, definitely. He pretty much had the race he needed because I did see in the Div 2 chat as well. He was saying that this was one of his weaker tracks. So to win on one of your weaker tracks is really exactly what you need and puts him right back into the title fight. And especially when your championship rivals don't do so well, it's I think a very important result in this championship. And yeah, it's if he does manage to take the title, this could be probably one of the biggest turning points. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but one thing we probably will both agree on is, if something's not gonna happen at Alpine, then that's team play, is it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, when you're separated by 3 points and you're both in the title fight, we've seen it in real life with drivers that close in the title fights, like Hamilton, Rosberg. They're always looking to one up each other, and this time they've got, unlike in real life, they've got another driver that they're fighting with. So if they do take points off each other, it could help Slapbus out a great deal. But yeah. We'll see what happens. I don't really know how it'll play out because I'm sure they'll want to. Of course, you always want to beat your teammate for one, and when it's for the title, it's even more so. So it could get very spicy between the two.
Yeah, I know that there is kind of a rivalry between Jackster and Slappers because I think both of them think they're the quickest in their division, or at least want to prove that. And obviously there is Tushin Jackson Distant Bar because the team, and then also Distant Bar always said he wants to beat Slappers to finally win a championship because there are all these little turning points. And at the end of the day, we might suddenly see Otto winning his first race at some stage, and suddenly look at this from the background, which would be even better. But I think his gap is still quite big. Especially with China coming up, I think Distant Bar and Slappers will be looking forward to that. But we also have Canada now, which will be favored by Jack Stelter and probably Lloyd as well. So Division 2 quali will be very interesting because if I'm not fully mistaken, I think in quali this time from P2 down to P13, everyone was within 2/10 of a second, which is actually amazing. But also in Division 1 this week, we talked about earlier, the qualifying was really, really close. So I'm looking forward to another Division 2 Grand Prix to watch this time. Much more enjoyable because it's too close for myself and my horrible quali pace. So going to be interesting what happens at Canada there. I could definitely see Jexter or Otto performing there now that Otto won a Canada Grand Prix in our partner league over at BBC with some very quick drivers. So that's going to be interesting. And I'd say we just move over to Division 3, where it was a S game for Aston Martin who won from TD Thomas, who actually didn't put his car on the wall this time around. With Essela Jam in P3, another podium for the Alfa Romeo driver, Kiksora, his reserve teammate in P4, LWIC in P5 ahead of Heated. Essela Ham not winning, so that's a huge surprise to us. Some Pikachu in P8, Cheat in P9 and F1XL Kimi in P10 for the McLaren team. In the driver standings, Ham now leads with 40 points to Jobber, so still extends the lead because of the AlphaTauri driver DNF to the second time in a row. I believe it also was to control a disconnect, which also caused a restart. So definitely not the best of times for Jobbo so far. Essela Jam on 111 points, jumping up to P3 in the standings. AJ Nolan still on 76, so he's struggling in the last two races. With Heated on 63 points, on Pikachu on 56. S-Game now up on 54 points, passing Thomas, who's on 53. Then we've got Mango on 39 and Croaky on 33. In the Constructors' Championship, something that Blade will very happily look at is Williams leading by a big margin. They have 292 points, so very close to the 300 point mark. Alfa Romeo then on 223, AlphaTauri on the third and 209, and Aston Martin on 194. Haas in the middle of the whole pack with 169 points, around over 40 points actually ahead of Mercedes. Then we've got Alpine with 105, McLaren on 88, Red Bull on 75, and Ferrari on 44 points, struggling in Division 3. Well, Essela Ham didn't win. I think that's the biggest surprise we had in weeks so far in Division 3, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Ham's been unbelievably quick this whole time, and finally his race win streak, his 5 race win streak, and his 6 race podium streak has finally come to an end. So he'll probably be a bit disappointed, but he still managed to get some points, unlike his championship rival. So maybe he won't be too upset, but still, yeah, good race for his game as well. Not his only win, which we'll get onto later, I'm sure. But yeah, definitely not ideal for Ham, but still he extended his gap in the championship, so I don't think he'll be complaining too much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he deserved it, as you said. He also performed in other divisions quite well so far. Did S-Game, and as you can see, Lance Stroll waving to the crowd. He definitely was happy after that Bahrain Grand Prix. It wasn't quite that light and midnight of Bahrain, but that's another topic. And also Thomas doing well, obviously. Podium, I think, since Britain for the first time since round 1. And yeah, Jam suddenly catching up to Jobbo as well. So it's probably going from bad to worse for Jobbo now, isn't it? I mean, what's actually his job now, really, in this championship fight?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, his job is to, you know, try and fix his form and get back to winning races like he was early in the season. We know he can do it, but obviously he's in a bit of a slump right now. So yeah, with obviously no points in the last 2 races, but as I said, he can definitely get some points back. But when you're up against Ham, who's so quick, I don't even know whether it's even the healthy to think, oh, I still need to win this championship because he's almost unstoppable at this point, apart from this one race. So, and when you're not taking advantage of those races, it's not the best. But like I said, anything can happen, and he shouldn't lose hope just yet because he's talented and definitely can, I believe, gain a lot of points back. So
Yeah, definitely. And I would say after bit of a more boring championship fight, we head over to probably the most interesting one in one of our favorite divisions, which is Division 4, and surprise, with a two-time race winner this time, not a new one. After winning in San Marino at Imola, Krigmit makes it 2 wins in a row by also being victorious at Bahrain. So he wins for AlphaTauri. Oh, big boy in P2 for Red Bull, so he's behind the small sister team. And behind him, another Honda engine, well, Red Bull powertrains now. Jacob Brown, after having a qualiban, he finishes on the podiums and gaining points on his championship rival of Hobbs. So that's definitely very good for him. Same pretty much counts for Jakob, who also had a qualiban and finishes P4. So those two were fighting it out at the final lap of the race for the last podium position. Ronnie then finishing in P5 after missing one or two races. I believe he picks up 10 points at least. Raven West in P6, beating Andrew, who retired as well from that race. Fast and Furious in P7, Jamie Hobbs in P8. Only, you have to say, the championship leader, and Tweaky Scorpion in P9, and Rex only in P10, who drops even further compared to his rivals. In the driver standings, Hobbs still leads. He's sitting on 178 points, with Jacob Brown on 159. So he's definitely closing that gap very, very shortly. Krigmid on 101 points, and he's now third in the Drivers' Championship, out of nowhere pretty much, the second AlphaTauri driver. So you can see we already have some similarities compared to the Division 2 Drivers' Championship here. Jakob sitting on 96 points, once again gaining a couple points on Hobbs, around 10 every race recently. Then Ronnie only half a point behind Jakob on 95.5, Rex on 85.5, so he's still in the hunt for the top three positions. Andrew on 79 points after not scoring any. Lewis getting promoted after, not promoted, demoted actually, to Division 5. So he leaves the Haas team with 78 points in Division 4. Erna then on 60 points. He also got demoted after some lack of pace in the last couple of weeks and months, but he leaves Division 4 in P9. Michelle then on 54.5 points, still sitting in a top 10. In the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri extend the lead obviously to or around 60 points even, because they sit on 321 points with Ferrari on 263. Then they've got a bit of a margin to the midfield pack. McLaren is sitting on 193 points, Alpine on 160, Williams on 141, and then it's quite close behind them with Aston Martin on 125 points, 1 point ahead of Haas, who are on 124, Alfa Romeo on 102. And then at the back, it's really close between Red Bull and Mercedes, who sit on 62 and 53 points. Well, due to a couple of incidents, Blade, Jamie Hobbs has also received a qualiban due to excessive amount of penalty points for Canada. And if it probably seems like you're not the quickest really anymore in your division, you get a qualiban at Canada. It's probably not really what you're aiming for, is it?
yeah, definitely not. I know Jacob had a quali ban this round, managed to get P3, so maybe you never know, he could get P3 himself next race. But I think certainly it's better to get a quali ban in Bahrain rather than in Canada, because Canada's absolute chaos. I think Hops will be hoping that the chaos is in front of him and kind of just, you know, he manages to sneak through all of it and get past people, which is definitely possible in Canada, but especially if it's a wet race, which isn't too uncommon. But yeah, if there's no chaos and he has to fight his way through, it's going to be very difficult, especially because the Div 4 grid is, they're all pretty quick and they're quite close on pace. So yeah, I don't think I'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. But away from the top two, really, you probably have to talk about Krigmit. I mean, won his first race at Imola before. I mean, he was always around the podium, of course, but didn't really seem to be as much of as a threat for the others. And suddenly he wins 2 races. I mean, is he probably joining quite late to the championship fight, but not exactly being out of it still, because we have 6 races and he's 77 points behind, and with Hobbs' qualifying, anything can happen really.
Yeah, definitely. It is a quite sizable gap, but as you said, if the championship leaders are getting quali bans, he's definitely not quite out of it. And obviously, first double winner this season, I'm sure he'll be looking to make it 3 in a row if he can next time out. But yeah, we'll see. I'm sure he's definitely looking to win as many as he can. So yeah, he could make a late charge, and it could make it a three-way title fight instead.
Yeah, would definitely be great. And as said, like in Division Two, having a single driver compared to two teammates, it also adds a nice extra variable to the whole thing, because of course you can work together, but you don't really want to give your teammate an advantage in this championship fight if you're also in it. So will be interesting how they work together. I mean, I think Jacob still isn't slower than Craig Mid or the level, or maybe Jacob's even quicker, and still has, a as you said, a sizable gap to his teammate of 58 points, which is actually more than 2 race wins. So I think Jacob probably is in the best position as of yet, because as I said, he has the gap to his teammate, but he also seems to be, if not the quickest drive of the whole division, so he can hunt down Hobbs and maybe even pass him after Canada if he wins the race. So that will definitely be very interesting. And yeah, we'll probably even better with Krigme P1, Jacob P2, and Hobbs not completely up there, but as we said, Hobbs is very consistent, and I'm sure he will pick up some decent points despite starting from the back of the grid, and with some wet Canada races. Looking back at 2012 in real life of one, it doesn't really matter where you start. It does matter where you finish, and I think that's the best how you can leave Division 4 for now. As we hop over to Division 5, and it was a debut winner of Merlin in the Mercedes. So only win for Mercedes I think this week there was, beating Paloma by only a few tenths of a second in the Aston Martin. So Heikki wasn't here this week, but his team had definitely tried everything to pick up the race win for his teammate. Matt in P3 in the Alpine, McCain P4 after a massive crash in lap 1, which somehow didn't took him out of the whole equation. Equa in P5, Allsport in P6, the Rick, the Italian driver, in P7, J Street in P8 after a penalty applied to his race result, Batsy in P9, and RM James in P10, picking up a single point for the Scuderia Ferrari. In the driver standings, we have Macau still leading with a bit of a margin. He's on 172 points for Red Bull. We've got Heike obviously on 146 and Lemon on 134. So they stayed on the same amount of points as they didn't compete this week, which definitely helped Maka in the end, despite a horrific start to his Grand Prix. Boosted Abbey on 94 points. So once again, he couldn't pick up the points when his rivals weren't there. And this rate probably seems kind of that he's will struggle to get into that championship battle with Maka having around 80 more points. Batsy on 81 points. Then we've got J Street on 73, passing Mashallah, who's on 70 points. Paloma on 65. Gaza still sitting on 50, and Equa getting up to 48 points to his name. In the team standings, Aston Martin lead now with 248 points, McLaren and 243. So there was a switch at the top with Alpine on 201 points, Red Bull on 174, Alfa Romeo 3 points ahead of Alfa Tauri. Then we've got Williams on 136, Haas on 113, Ferrari on 105, and Mercedes on 74. I mean, looking at this Constructors' Championship, which obviously at the top is very close, but you can sense that Division 5 is really equally matched because compared to the other divisions, the 10th team in the standings is on 74 points, which in other divisions would probably put you around 7th or 6th in the championship. So I think we can both agree, Blade, that just especially the midfield in this division is amazingly closely matched as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think it reflects in the driver standings as well because there's a lot of people who are still looking to take P4 in the championship. So
Yeah,
yeah, definitely very close. As you said with the teams as well. You know, one good weekend from one of the teams like Ferrari towards the bottom. They have one good weekend, they could jump a couple positions or even more. Williams, you know, that would be nice. Jump up straight to fourth position. That's definitely possible. So yeah, it's definitely a close division, and yeah, I think looking at the results, we've got you know some newer names towards the top who aren't always at the top as well, or people always switching positions. So yeah, it's all very close.
yeah. I mean, we should now really sit here and talk about the domination of Merlin and Paloma because they were after a couple of laps they were gone from the rest of the pack. They were just gone. But I think like every week I have to say it's just unbelievable. Maka has that massive crash at the start of the race, losing his wing right at the bottom of the pack, fights himself through the whole midfield kerfuffle or whatever you want to call it, and ends up in P4, picking up 12 crucial points while his rivals are just sitting in front of the TV screen and watching him said picking up those points. I mean, it must be frustrating for his rivals, but he's really doing a consistently strong job this season, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, uh, just like his compatriot in the Red Bull in Div One in Sora, you know, when you have a bad weekend, he's getting points and gapping his rivals, and that's a very important attribute to making a champion. So yeah, with how big his crash was at turn three, I think it was on
Yeah.
lap one, to come back and gain 12 points over your closest championship rival is massive. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm sure Heikki will come back. I'm not too sure about Lemon. I mean, I know he's some Maxims coming up and probably will struggle to put in enough practice. But just to end the topic of Division 5 off, do you agree that probably Heikki will still be on the ball and fight for that championship really hard? Because I mean, it is just under 30 points, which is still more than a race win, but he's still in it because yeah, especially before the week break we saw Heike won the last race, so the pace is definitely there, but would also be good with the division because as I said it's a close midfield, and if you actually have to fight your way through it might take you a little bit of time, even Maka. So I think we can both agree that Aston Martin and Heike are still in this battle because they don't want to only win the constructors but also the drivers.
yeah, definitely, it's always a great feeling to win the drivers, and yeah, as you said, Heike winning the last race, knowing he probably couldn't make the next one, was pretty important. So I'm sure he'll be back next race, and we'll be looking to claw back some points. And he's definitely not too far behind as well, with 6 races to go. So yeah, he'll definitely be. He's definitely right up there.
Yeah, just a quick note actually, what I've just realized. I mean, Heike currently has 3 race wins to his name. Mack has a single one. That's probably something that we didn't really mention before, but Maka is just the consistency of a god, really. I mean, he's won a single race. I mean, that's really amazing, and I think that will probably give him an extra push as well to know that his consistency might actually be enough to win the Drivers' Championship all by himself. But yeah, I think that's where we wrap up Division 5 and head over to Echo's dreamland in Division 6, but he didn't pick up any points this week because it was GWO Panda who wins for Alpine, so definitely something that Blade alongside me probably doesn't want to see for his Williams teams as a team, as especially the other team on the sharp end, Aston Martin, with J-Tilp finishes second, and VTEX the winner of Imola in P3. Dubs Gamer in P4, Allium UTD in P5, Kel in P6, Ed in P7, Ragnar in P8, Ace Guy in P9 for Ferrari, and Daniel Gamer in P10. In the driver standings, due to him having a DNF, Echo lost a margin of a lifetime. He lost 2 points actually, because Callum Ludlow passed 10th Cannon for P2. Not the best of races for Callum, but still, I mean, still finished in the points. But yeah, 2 points ahead, as said, of 10th Cannon. Then we've got Viatex on 104, J-Tilp on 101. So the top 5 all already reached 100 points mark. Then we've got Allium UTD on 97, Panda on 83 now, so he gets up a few positions. Flying Lucian 66, Ace Guy and on 60, and Dubs Gamer on 51. In the team standings, Aston Martin streak away into the distance compared to Haas, because Aston Martin sit on 276 points, Haas on 231, Mercedes 2 points behind Haas still, so those two are still quite close together, with Alpine on 218, Alfa Romeo on 201, and then we've got the huge gap to AlphaTauri and Williams, who are both sitting on 107 points. Red Bull on 98, Ferrari on 84, and McLaren once again being far down the order with 43 points. Yeah, I mean, as I said, the drivers is kind of a bit boring at this rate, because it's not really Echo's fault. He even has bad races at this rate, and his rivals they are doing well actually, but they're just taking points off each other, which obviously makes the constructors interesting. But as I said, it's probably mostly around for race wins at this rate, isn't it?
Well, I mean, that 2 point swing is, I think, championship ending for Echo, so I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm kidding, obviously. Yeah, that's why you want to do as well as you can. If you do have a bad race like Echo has just done, you have a buffer. You don't really have too much to worry about. You can afford to have off days or crashes, or even if it's not your fault and you're taken out, because you have such a big championship lead. It's not too bad. So I'm sure Echo won't be happy, but I don't think he has too much to worry about. Obviously, it can't continue for the rest of the season, because then very quickly his rivals will catch. But um, as
Yeah.
long as he's finishing in the points, even around fifth place, even if there's people quicker in the division, I think he'll still win the championship quite comfortably. So,
Yeah, I mean, actually, talking about Echo, I've just remembered something. I'm getting old now. My brain is not working perfectly anymore. I mean, I heard that Echo probably won't even be able to make all the races, which probably will get the others a little bit closer. I assume that's something to do with work or anything, but if they still perform, like, and I think they will push until the end of the season, because if there isn't a championship to fight for, really, they still can fight it out for the All Star race, which I think, especially for the lower divisions, is a good trial run, basically, to show what they can do in higher divisions for next season, and also is crucial for the ranking. So I think that's probably an aim. But yeah, if Echo, for example, misses 2 races, and for example Callum wins both of those, this could at least give us some bit of time to extend the championship decider, let's say. So it makes it a little bit more interesting. But overall, I think we both agree that Echo just had a magnificent season. I mean, he even did it better than Sora, let's be honest. I mean, he has really done well. And if you ask yourself why we're so nice to Echo, I mean, he obviously has paid us in this podcast, so we're praising him, obviously. But yeah, um, Division 6 is kind of a bit of overall constructors' time in recent weeks. I mean, and we can really say that Alpine lacked out here, really. I mean, Gamer, the Alpine full-time driver in P4, but a reserve winning for Alpine is quite unfortunate for Aston Martin and Williams. Or am I wrong there?
Certainly not wrong. Yeah. I mean, it would have been nice if we could have had him in Williams if we had one driver not attending, but no. Obviously, it's just the way it goes sometimes. And brilliant job by Panda. No one can fault him. So yeah, and obviously Dubs Gamer did very well as well. So definitely, I think this week Alpine has done well in all divisions. So, it's definitely a good week for them, but who's to say that will continue every week? Like I said before, it's really hard to read the overall constructors because sorry, one week, one team could do extremely well, and then the next week, team could do really well. We could see Aston Martin in the lead next time out. So, yeah, obviously good for Alpine, not good for us at Williams, and I'm sure Aston Martin will be looking to try and take the lead themselves. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's where we can leave Division 6 for now and go over to the final F1 division of GRL, which is Division 7. And the guy who crossed the line first, the guy who won the racing game, wasn't the person who actually did win the Bahrain Grand Prix, because Toxic Finn was the person who crossed the line first. But as you can see, he finished P5, because at the end of the stewards report, we could find out that he had a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with Blade's favorite Division 7 driver, which is Browns the Buns. So Wargasm won for Alpine, even worse for Williams this rate, because Williams was Alpine, sorry, was doing so well in the lower divisions. Terrific Gamer then in second for Mercedes, so he continues a strong form. Doorstop starting P17, up in P3 in the end, so really important for Alfa Romeo, who had a tough season so far, especially in Division 7. Browns to Buns then in P4 after fighting for P1 in the early stages of the race. Then as said, Toxic Finn in the Aston Martin after his penalty being applied. McMessy in P6. Sparky with a really strong performance in the Red Bull, despite the game giving him a DSQ, but this got overturned as it just happened ahead of the line. So as said, great performance by Sparky here, picking up vital points for Red Bull. Killer Subman in P8. Then we've got Matthew in P9, so not the best race for the race winner from Imola, and the Rangers in P10. As you could see on the race results, neither Kieran nor It's Bright, the two championship contenders, finished the race, so both retired. So the gap is still 40 points between Kieran 192 points and It's Brighton 152. Then I've got Matthew 114, 1 point ahead of McMessian 113. Then Wargasm with his race win, making it pretty much a quarter of his points being applied from Bahrain, because he's now on 100 points. We've got Browns to Buns on 89, Terrific Game on 65, Spud Racing on 52, slipping down the order once more, Drizzy Rascal on 45, and Marley on 41. In the Constructors' Championship of Division 7, Ferrari extend the lead by now, having 316 points, McLaren 283, Mercedes sitting in 207, with Aston Martin in 166. We've got Alpine and AlphaTauri in 112, with Red Bull on 104. The podium of Doorstop definitely helped Alfa Romeo out, getting up the order and are now on 91 points, with Haas on 76 and Williams on 75 points. So yeah, I mean it was pretty much every week recently. It's Bright doing well, then it was Kieran doing well, then it was It's Bright again, then it was Kieran again. But this week nobody decided to really put a good performance on, and suddenly they lost points to every one of the guys behind. I mean, that's definitely a interesting week, but definitely helps out Kieran a bit more than it does to its bride, I assume.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, if there's a race where they both score the same amount of points, it definitely helps Kieran out because that's one less race he has to worry about. But yeah, not ideal for both of them. Still, I'm sure that Kieran would have liked to extend his lead, and obviously, it's Sprite didn't really want to be backwards behind the safety car this race. So yeah, not ideal for either of them, but yeah, makes it interesting for everyone else because they're usually fighting towards the top. So
Yeah, definitely. And the Wargasm also picking up his first race win. I assume as a Williams driver, seeing an Alpine driver winning in Division 6 and winning in Division 7 and also a Div 5 podium for Alpine, that's definitely what you want to see as Williams driver, right?
yeah, of course. I think my reaction's something similar to Fernando Alonso's face right now. Uh, yeah, not great. I'm sure that was also Wargasm's reaction to Toxic Finn's penalty as well. So you know,
Yeah, he was
yeah.
partying in the Div 7 jet. I remember that when the Steve's report came out. But yeah, that proves it again. I mean, even though it's Division 7 and there might be some elbows out racing, you still need to keep it clean. And I think if someone didn't feel sorry for Finn, it definitely was Browns to Buns because he had some great pace. I think we talked about it a couple of days ago as well. Browns to Buns had great pace and could have also won that Grand Prix, but wasn't meant to be due to a crash in the final corner between the Aston Martin and the AlphaTauri. And yeah, so now we have a first podium for Doorstop, a first win for Wargasm, and Terrific Gamer this time didn't decide to crash out at the final corner of the race, which definitely helped his points tally so far in the recent weeks. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit difficult to call now because It's Bright actually retired during safety car, which probably isn't really what you need if you want to win a championship. But it's really between pure pace against pure consistency at this rate, right?
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, and obviously, as you said, Bright, retiring behind safety car. Usually, it's when that happens, it's quite a unnecessary or silly misunderstanding accident. So I'm sure he won't be very happy about it. But really, yeah, it's between himself and Kieran right now in the championship. I think the rest are quite far behind,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's definitely not ideal for him.
Yeah, and basically, before we head over to our favorite division, especially your favorite division, I assume, we head over to the overall constructor standings, where we can see what we mentioned a couple of times now. Alpine retake the championship lead in the overall constructors, now sitting on 1,387 points, over 30 points ahead of Aston Martin, who are by themselves 7 points ahead of Williams. So it really seems to be between those three teams for the biggest title in the GRL universe, as I said last week as well. And then we've got the midfield battle, and that's maybe even more interesting than it is for P1 because we've got Ferrari in 1168, then we've got Mercedes on 1149, Red Bull only 2 points behind Mercedes, so that's a very interesting battle, not only in Division 1. Alfa Romeo on 1131, McLaren on 1110, and AlphaTauri on 1058. So we have pretty much got 6 teams within 110 points. So if you've got a stellar weekend, you suddenly around P4, P5 area after sitting right at the dead end pretty much of the overall constructors. And yeah, also if Haas get a move on, they might find themselves right in the battle. So despite it being such a long season, it seems to really be a very balanced season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if any of the teams can, manage to do what Alpine did this week, like McLaren, for example, it's definitely within the realms of possibility that they move straight from P8 to P4. So it is very close in that midfield, and obviously up front, Yeah, not ideal for us at Williams, but we're not too far behind, and I know we had a couple bits of bad luck with Drazzy in Div 1 and XRP in Div 2, both being either taken out or making mistakes from good positions. So, and obviously Ham, as soon as he doesn't win, he's carrying us.
Yeah.
We lose the lead.
It's
So
Ham's mistake that we dropped down. Is that what you
yeah,
want to say?
so I'm begging Ham that he wins the next 5 races or something. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
but
nobody knows what could happen if Spud Racing actually finishes in the position he's in at the start of the final lap. I mean, that could be massive for Williams. They would be long gone. But that's a different story probably after a bit of a tough season for the Div 7 Williams team. But yeah, now let's move over to our favorite division, to Formula 2. And Blade wanted to finally get maximum points out of a weekend, which would be both fastest laps, pole position, feature race win, and sprint race win. But this hope got kind of destroyed quite early this time because it wasn't yourself who won the sprint race, despite having a very interesting start and spin, I believe, or very close to spinning at the start, definitely of the sprint race, because a couple of cars I remember were sideways in turn one, and in Bahrain, that's definitely one you want to see when you're heading with couple of mph towards the braking zone. But yeah, talk us through your race probably, because it definitely contained a lot of overtaking.
yeah, so I mean, I had my traditional shocking start in I mean, in both F1 and F2 cars. It seems that I just can't get off the line, but and then yeah, there was a bit of a concertina effect into turn three that we often see, and someone spun in front of me, a little bit of contact, but luckily no damage. So I think I dropped down to as low as 14th or 15th, which wasn't ideal, but by the end of the lap, I think I was in about P8 because there were a couple more crashes, and some of the quicker guys like yourself and Gibson uh, also got caught up in an instant despite being ahead of me after that, after the turn three incident for myself. So I still managed to get past past quite a lot of people, overtook and got back up to P2. And just like in the Division 1 race, I finished half a second behind P1, which the sprint race was won by his game. So, as I mentioned earlier, not the only race he won Div 3, he also managed to win the sprint race in F2. So, good weekend from him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're waiting for that really to talk about his sprint race victory. I mean, he performed really well in recent weeks, I would say, but missed out on that win so far and finally got it, which in the same week probably shows that he really had good pace at Bahrain, no matter what cars. And it's also good for his championship because he's still in F2 as well, has a solid chance on being best of the rest. I mean, you don't need to talk us through your feature race because that seemed quite boring, despite us being three wide, I believe, in turn one. That was interesting. Nobody wanted to give up that position for sure, because I think Gibson and myself, being starting in P2 and P3, both knew that there's only one way to beat you in that feature race, and that's just go full send into turn one and hope it sticks really. Um, but then I decided no, that's not really my way of doing it, and just a half spun Gibson. So that was definitely a good idea. Then how did it go? And then you stroke away quite soon, I believe. I think it was lap three, just before the DRS got enabled. So then it was basically a race for P2 again. Between Gibson and myself. Dara, I remember, started far down the order. Distant Bard wasn't here, so that's definitely not good for his championship. Um, then Gibson got the traditional 5 second time penalty. I think he's definitely the champion when it comes to speeding penalties in the pit lane. I mean, he picks it up like no tomorrow, that's for sure. But then it was still interesting in the end. I mean, Blade, of course, was his 15 seconds in the lead at the final lap. That's traditions, but then it was Gibson who lost a bit of pace. I feel because of the older tires, because F2 obviously plays a big role when you pit and what how you treat your tires. So it was Gibson versus me. You just decided to do pretty much Saudi Arabia Leclerc versus Verstappen, where both of us just broke before the DRS detection zone and forgot that 3 seconds behind us we have a whole DRS range. So we invited those like 5 cars to our party, and the final lap out of nowhere, it was pretty much 7 car fight for P3. Then Gibson pretty much picked up all the marbles going into turn one by defending the pit wall, almost putting his car into the pit wall actually a couple of times. That would have been definitely some award at the end of the season. Then we were 3 wide into turn three. That's definitely remarkable. You didn't see that, I'm pretty sure, because you're already in sector three. Then there might have been some contact. Definitely not my fault. Definitely not. But yeah, I remember that Minico with 8 seconds suddenly overtook Gibson despite earlier being like 3 seconds behind him. 2 pirouettes as well at the exit of turn three. So I definitely watched it back at Adam Reed. He definitely entertained that very nicely indeed. But in the end, I mean, surprise, Blade won with like 14.5 seconds. I mean, deserved. I mean, really good performance once again. But then it was myself, and don't ask me actually who finished third because yeah, I said I'm old.
Nathan. It was Nathan, I
Oh
think.
yeah, Nathan, exactly. In the campus after yeah, turn three melee pretty much. But in the end, Blade extends his championship lead to I believe 110 points or so. So he's definitely on the way to being the new GRL Echo. Copy the Division 6 driver definitely. Then in second it's Dara from myself, Gibson and Distenbard, and then in the midfield it's all very close with I think still Nathan leading with around 80 points. So yeah, Canada next up in F2. I mean, that's surely gonna be very interesting, especially with your starts in a short run to turn one. Is that probably an advantage, or isn't it really? Because the others will just purely center around the outside or down the inside.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how bad of a start I get, because I feel like this one, even though in Bahrain, both you and Gibson got quite a bit better starts than me, it was definitely not my worst start. Especially from earlier in the season, going from pole to about sixth in the first lap, it's not ideal, and I don't really want to have to go through that in Canada. So, yeah, it should be interesting. I think, unlike F1, I think Canada under control in F2 cars probably won't be too bad because it's obviously going quite a bit slower, and I think I'll be able to enjoy the track a lot more. Um, so yeah, it should be interesting. I imagine I'll have pretty good pace there, but who knows? Maybe I'll do a cheeky spin to make it a bit more interesting this time. So yeah, um, I don't know. And then obviously there's always a chance of rain, and that will make my start even worse, I'm sure. So
Wet Canada
yeah,
would definitely would spice things up, because I just remember Australia where the technical was a straight, but you couldn't go really full throttle. So that was scary for sure, and especially in the if the sprint race is wet, I mean that's basically a Russian roulette, as I like to say,
yeah,
because you
yeah,
can't predict anything. Because obviously the cars ahead won't really try to move out of your way, and that would definitely be very interesting. We also had it in
yeah,
Singapore. That's where you were just chilling in your phone cars and then turned up and won everything. That was good old times where everyone had a chance at winning, and then some campus driver turned up. Can't remember who that could have been, but yeah, as said 1,000 times earlier, it's Canada next week. 7 F1 divisions and 1 F2 divisions, with a lot of drivers probably putting in a couple of practice sessions for the well-being as well. Um, Blade yourself will be racing obviously in F1 on Monday on 8:30 and on Wednesday for the F2. I mean, I assume you're probably looking forward a little bit more to the F2 because you can analyze the chicane before you completely cut it and abuse the track limits. But um, what you're looking the most forward to for Canada, because at the end of the day, I assume it's still a nice track to drive. It's just you need a lot of focus there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to starting last in Canada Division 1. I mean, I'm so
No, I'm
excited.
racing. That don't be stupid. I'm second to last. Chill out.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll both be having fun on the back row of the grid, I'm sure. So, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it'll be an interesting race, definitely. I haven't really done many races around Canada, so I'm gonna put the hours in this week and try and make sure I'm not too far off the pace, and hopefully I'll reap the rewards of that in Division One, and maybe I'll get a better result than expected. I think really in Canada, the quali pace on the pad is probably the biggest problem. I think the race pace probably isn't too bad from my experience at Canada, the one race I have done there on this year's game. So hopefully, if I do qualify pretty badly, I can hopefully make some positions through race pace and through maybe some chaos up front because with such a tight street circuit, there's always going to be some incidents, I'm sure, and hopefully I'm not caught up in any of them. And yeah, the F2 will no doubt be quite a lot of fun. I think. I'm quite looking forward to driving the F2 cars around Canada because I think they'll be a lot more enjoyable than the F1 cars are.
Yeah, definitely. You probably can also run a more stable setup there. But yeah, that's Bahrain. Summed up pretty much. Sadly, we already passed Bahrain because definitely a better track to race each other at than probably is Montreal. But yeah, I think our drivers will make the best out of the North American track over Canada, and I'd say we'll hopefully see you next week when probably I'll say now we'll speak with Dara again, but it probably will be Blade. So uh, we'll find out. That's the biggest question mark for next week. So yeah, tune in for the race streams. Definitely, that's going to be very interesting, especially for example Division 2 and 1, where the grids are really close and really depends on the daily form of the drivers. Whoever picks up crucial points for the championship and maybe have a little advantage for the last 5 races in their campaign. So yeah, see you all on Monday or Wednesday, whenever you want to watch F1 or F2, and yeah, see you in the next one.